Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise in your sources, pulling out those key insights you really need. Today, we're digging into something very specific. You shared a high-level piece of information. Yeah, our focus is the outcome, or maybe the lack of outcome, from a pretty significant summit about a Ukraine ceasefire. It's less about some big breakthrough and more about, well, the fact that there wasn't one and what that tells us.
Exactly. That's our mission for this deep dive, extracting what's crucial from that single detail. We're really zeroing in on what it signifies when something expected, or at least hoped for, just doesn't happen, especially in these high-stakes diplomatic situations.
Yeah.
Sometimes the silence of a non-agreement, it can actually say a lot more than pages of formal text.
Right. And the core finding from the source you gave us is, well, it's pretty blunt. Trump, Putin don't reach ceasefire on Ukraine during Alaska summit. So this single sentence, or maybe the absence it describes, that's what we're unpacking. What does this unreached agreement actually tell us? Especially when you have two major leaders meeting face-to-face like that.
Well, the first thing that jumps out, really, is that the lack of an agreement here between these two at this level, it's not just a missed handshake. It points towards deeper issues, underlying problems that even that kind of direct top-level talk couldn't overcome. It makes you ask, okay, what were the roadblocks? What was so insurmountable?
That's a really good point. For those of you following international relations closely, this isn't just another headline. It's a critical piece of data, isn't it? It helps us gauge the viability of this kind of leader-to-leader approach right now for this conflict. So let's dig into that. What are some of those deeper implications when a ceasefire doesn't materialize, even after talks like these?
Well, when high-level negotiations like this summit fail to deliver something so central, like a ceasefire, it often signals a breakdown in a few key areas. Could it be a fundamental clash over, say, Ukraine's territorial integrity versus Russia's security demands? That's a classic sticking point.
Right, those core positions.
Or maybe the sources hint at something more basic, like just the complete lack of mutual trust.
Yeah, that's always a factor.
Or perhaps it revealed that there wasn't even a shared idea of what an acceptable end state for the conflict looks like. Without that common vision, any kind of de-escalation becomes, well, almost impossible, doesn't it? This failure to agree suggests the essential preconditions for a ceasefire. Things like a real willingness to compromise on key demands. They just weren't met by either side, presumably.
So it's not simply a no deal, it's a no deal that's actually quite revealing. It tells us something about how entrenched the positions likely are. And, maybe about the limited leverage either leader felt they had at that moment to really shift things. This wasn't just failing to agree on the how. Perhaps it was a failure to even find common ground on the what. Like, where would a compromise even start?
Absolutely. You have to assume that the perceived cost of making a deal for one or possibly both leaders right then must have seemed higher than the benefits. And that cost could be driven by anything, really. Domestic politics back home, maybe pressure from other international players who weren't even in the room.
Sure.
Or it could just be a cold strategic calculation. A decision that maintaining the current situation, the status quo, was preferable to making concessions. It's a powerful signal, I think, that the path to actually resolving this is far more complicated than just getting the two main figures together.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with this final thought, drawing directly from that source material. What does the fact that a ceasefire was not reached at this specific summit tell us about the ongoing, frankly monumental challenges of sorting out major international conflicts, even when the key leaders actually meet face-to-face?
Right. It really forces us to recalibrate expectations, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About what direct diplomacy can achieve on its own in these really tough situations. It suggests we need to look at what else might be needed, other diplomatic channels, changes on the ground. Something has to shift, it seems, for future talks to have a better chance.
Definitely makes you think about the limits and maybe the necessary conditions for diplomatic breakthroughs going forward. Something to keep watching.